Most business owners don't have a lack of knowledge in their business or a lack of good data. They usually have the opposite problem. They have years of knowledge and data spread across their own head, team habits, old documents, customer emails, sales calls, call notes, software tools, spreadsheets, and all little workarounds that keep the business moving even though it's not really documented, right? The business works, customers are being served, the team knows a lot, you know a lot, but the knowledge behind how that business works is scattered. That matters now more because AI is only as useful as the context you give it, right? If you ask a generic AI tool a generic question about your business, you'll probably get a generic answer, which is what a lot of people end up disappointed with and kind of put off AI with, right? It might kind of sound polished. It might even be somewhat directionally useful sometimes, but it's not really answering based off of an understanding of your business and hence not as helpful as people hype it up to be. Right? It won't know how your customers behave, where your team gets stuck, what exceptions matter, what promises you've made, or how the work actually gets done, right? So the simple way to say it is before AI can actually help improve your business, you have to make your business readable, right? And readable doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean you have to have some like massive internal, super structured knowledge system. It just means that the knowledge that already runs the business in the background and kind of is just unspoken stuff can become seen, understood, eventually organized and actually used, right? And I think there are kind of three steps to do this, right? You capture it all. I talked about this in another video about like that brain dump. You organize it and you apply. So capture, organize, and apply. So you got to capture all that real knowledge, right? Organize it into a useful context space. I talk about like again that brain dump. Just get it all into one place, right? So let's start there, right? This is the step that feels messy because it is messy in a sense, and that's okay. Your business knowledge probably doesn't live in one clean place right now. It lives in a lot of different places where the business happens, right? Your office manager may know which customers need flexible scheduling and why. Your pricing may have exceptions that live mostly in your head. Your delivery team may know that, okay, an old SOP is kind of there, but the newer way was just never really written down and was never really edited, right? Sales notes probably contain a lot of like common objections customers bring up, but they're sitting in different places and nobody really ever kind of got to it. That's the raw material. And if AI can't see any of that, it can't help like much beyond surface level advice because it's just pulling from an aggregate of the whole internet, right? So I think the first move isn't to just clean everything up. It's just to collect everything that's, in your business, right? That's that really important raw data that the AI can't pull from anywhere else because it's particular to you and your business. Again, and I think the easiest way is to create one dedicated place. It could be as simple as a folder on your computer, your, Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever you already use. And again, if you're nervous about the AI moving or changing things around, you just make a copy of those things as much as possible and just work from that. Then start putting the material in there, right? Owner notes, team notes, customer examples, all the stuff I talk about in the brain dump video where you have these conversations. Anything you have on your business that's not like super sensitive private data, just maybe don't worry about that stuff for now. But anything that's not like super sensitive, bring it in, like the sales material, intakes form, old SOPs, that that kind of stuff, tool list, pricing notes, whatever it is, emails that you typically send. At this stage, don't worry about making it beautiful, right? You're not building the final version yet. You're just building the sort of knowledge base out of people's heads, out of things that are just kind of spoken casually, and out of these scattered corners of the business and into one central place. And once you've captured enough of that raw material, that's when that second step comes to organize it all. And don't worry, this is also where the AI can actually help you do that and be genuinely helpful, right? I think a lot of owners look at the messy folder and think, oh man, I don't know where to start. It feels more overwhelming than before because things were at least kind of just running before. But that first sorting pass is actually the kind of work AI can help with, right? You can give it the material and say something like, hey, I've done a raw company brain dump. This folder has notes, documents, examples. the connections we use, the softwares we use, common things we see, conversations with my team, and rough notes for myself, just rough materials from different parts of the business. Some of it might be outdated, some of it overlaps. Don't delete anything yet. Don't move files without asking. Can you first read through what's here and, just explain what you're seeing, suggest a structure, and ask me, one question at a time, one clarifying question at a time, and then we can kind of start organizing from there. And again, literally do that as like a coworker, as like treat it as like a kind of like a second CEO or chief operating officer. And that instruction is super important because you're not asking the AI to just like magically understand everything because again, it's super messy. So you don't want it to like just assume things that, maybe are not true or outdated and don't make sense, right? But you are using it to help you sort through that pile a lot more efficiently and in a lot less overwhelming way than if you tried to do it yourself. So that first structure might be simple, right? Again, maybe start, okay, sales, customer intake, pricing, whatever it is, right? And it might just categorize it into those different things. Okay, this is related to sales. This is our sales SOP. This is our marketing SOPs, whatever, all that kind of stuff, right? These are the type of typical exceptions we make in our processes. These are, that kind of stuff. That alone is super useful because now the business isn't just one giant pile of loose knowledge, but there you start forming this map, right? And I think it's super helpful, just to rewind a little bit, even before you do it, if you can even just give it that rough map, like a rough table of contents that you think things are organized, and just be like, hey, I'm not locked in on this, but this is generally how I think different components of our business work. But then once you get that map from the business, you can start fine tuning it, right? You can say like, hey, I think actually that component belongs under sales, not operations, or oh, that SOP, yeah, that's not really how we do things anymore, or it's changed in this and that way. Again, just one at a time, so you're not having to figure out everything at once. And then, you might run into something where it's like, yeah, I guess technically that's our process, but now that I think about it, this is actually what ends up happening a lot of the time, right? Consult your team on some of this. And or okay, this exception only applies to like X and Y client, so it's not an exception for every like scenario. I mean, hence the name exception, right? But I think that correction process, that fine tuning, kind of like editing an essay, right? After you just kind of get everything out there, you're helping the system understand the business the way you understand it and the way things actually work. And this is where that labeling helps, right? Like I think if you even just again roughly, a file just called general notes, they can probably work with that, but it's not as useful. Whereas if you can at least kind of label it as like, okay, these are our, customer intake exceptions. Okay, that's much better. You're not trying to win an award for like being really good at file organization. You're just trying to make that knowledge easier to recognize, and easier to use, right? And okay, once you have that, you've kind of taken it through that map and you have it to a place you're basically comfortable with. The third step is to apply that, right? This is where that work starts to pay off. The point of making your business readable isn't to have a nice folder. I mean, although that's great, honestly, when I had, AI do this for just my personal computer and all the stuff that I have, it's just super refreshing to not have a crowded, downloads folder and documents and all these different things. But that's not the point, right? The point is that the next time you need help, you can like the AI can actually go to the specific part of the business that actually matters for what you're trying to work on, and it has the context to do so, right? So like if you want to improve your sales, okay, it can go to that section. If you want to improve marketing, it can go to that. And maybe people in your marketing team can access that specific part, right? And it'll work off of that knowledge base. And then if it needs to refer to other things, you can let it know, okay, these are the different parts of my business to refer to. For example, if you want help training a new hire on customer intake, you can kind of give that in the intake notes and maybe come up with a way to train that person. If you want to help improving operations, give it the delivery notes, handoff issues, SOPs, recurring problems, that kind of things, right? And just examples of good work. And I think that's when the answers start to get better and more useful for you because the AI isn't just guessing from the entire data set that it's trained on from the entire internet and everything, every other business out there. Like you may hear a lot of technical people talk about RAG, data sets, tokens, embeddings, context engineering, all these things. And understanding all those things at a high level is good, especially like in larger companies with huge amounts of important information across different things. But I think a lot of most like established kind of small to mid-sized businesses don't need to understand all of that at like a deep technical level, right? I think that the important principle is much simpler. Give the AI you got to make sure the AI has the right context for the right task. I think this is why some owners try AI and get underwhelming results and then kind of decide like, oh, it's not useful. The tool is probably not the issue. Like the issue may be that you think like, oh, it's because this tool isn't good. It's because ChatGPT isn't good and I got to go use cloud or vice versa, whatever, right? The issue may just be that the business hasn't given the tool enough to work with. And I think that's encouraging because it means the next step is actually really practical and you don't have to figure out the next best tool. You don't have to rebuild the company. You don't need like this giant software stack and you don't need to become an AI expert. You just need to make, slowly the business more readable. Maybe just start with one area. Pick one area where the same questions keep coming up. Maybe it's like your marketing that you're focused on right now. Okay, let's get in everything related to marketing, everything about your business, right? Just again, doing that brain dump, creating the one folder, add that raw material, and then just give it that rough map as best as you can. Then you can ask the AI to summarize what's there, suggest a structure, identify possible SOPs. Again, that one exercise will show you where there's clear knowledge. Again, it'll reveal a lot too, right? Where it's outdated, where the business is relying too much on just random people's memory. Once you see that you can start to improve it, and you're not just doing this for the AI, right? Like it's making it easier for your team, your future self, and yes, the AI tools itself to understand. But I think that order matters when it comes to AI, right? So just that raw, messy capture first, then kind of use the AI as a co-pilot to organize all of that, and then the application of AI becomes a lot easier. So don't skip to that application step because that's where you're going to find a lot of underwhelming results and frustration with AI.